Welcome to Self-Made.
Hello and welcome back to the Teardrop project. It has now begun and I wanted to show you and tell you about what I've done so far and some of the decisions that I've made. I've also made a decision that I will not try to use any kind of script or anything, or even point down what I'm going to say. So I will ramble on, and for those of you who can't stand that, that's fine, tune me out. If you can, that's good. What I've done so far is, as you can see, I've started working on the bed, the trailer bed. One of the first things I did decide when I got the axle and some of my basic materials, I decided that I would use the axle as a base for making this straight and level, which of course is crucial. Hopefully, I'm fairly certain, the people in Germany who made the axle made what they put together straight and level. So, and that also included one other decision, which is a practical one, and I don't think anybody would really do it otherwise. As you can see here, there are two bolts, and of course two on the other side. So the axle will be bolted to the bed. So for any or some reason I want to take it off in the future, I want that to be possible. For those of you who haven't done any kind of motorcycle projects, it is good to know that if you're going to use bolts for anything, and it has to do with, say, a vehicle that's going to be on the road, you have to be aware of that bolts are graded. I'm not quite sure, but I think the word in English is tensile strength. So they're graded for what kind of load they can take and so forth. So these bolts now, they will be changed out later on for bolts that have the proper grading for being used on a vehicle. They're not yet right now, but they will be changed. So I've used the axle for making it hopefully straight. And of course I have levels and 90-degree angles to make sure that it lines up the way it should. Measure again. Also, hopefully this will be an inspiration to anybody who wants to build anything. Do it. But if you're going to build something like this, you shouldn't deprive yourself of the joy and pleasure of welding, learning how to weld, having a welder. This is my small MIG welder. When I started working on the car, I had never really done any welding at all. I'm still not a good welder, but hopefully it will be structurally sound and it will hold together. So as you can see, I welded together a basic square. That's what I've done. I've also laid out my angle grinders, which if you don't have a lot of tools for working in metal, one of the things that you should also have, because they're so versatile and you can do so many different things with them, you should have one or maybe two angle grinders. Mine are nothing exceptional. They're not professional angle grinders. They're both actually Black & Decker ones. They serve me fine. I have a couple of them because they're different strengths, but also because you use it a lot for cutting, as well as grinding and polishing, sanding things. So with a good angle grinder, you can really do a lot of stuff. Also, when you talk about that, have good protection. Inhaling a lot of the stuff when you grind or cut metal, and you will not be feeling good by the end of the day. So have good eye, ear protection, of course, but also a mask, and you will be breathing a lot easier. So that's what I did. I had my measurements. I cut these bars to size. I realized immediately that there's one aspect that I don't like. When I made the plan, of course, I had an idea what kind of axle I wanted to use, but I didn't know really where the wheels would fit. And now when I have them on, they're not the actual wheels I'm going to use, but they're going to be very similar. The way they're sitting will of course be fixed. And I have this idea, this plan, that I want to make something around the wheelhouse that kind of ties the Wooster together with the teardrop trailer. And right now these, in my taste, are just sticking out too far. So I'm going to remove about an inch from it, 2.5 centimeters. So that when I actually make that structure, it pops out a little bit more from the side of the trailer. Now this of course is just an aesthetic thing, but it also shows you my method, which is just my method, that I don't usually know what it's going to look like or what it's going to end up like, but usually I know what I want. So I could see that that wasn't really optimum for what I was aiming for. Okay, so I want to show you another thing. I believe I showed you that I have one prefab part, which of course from the legislation here in Sweden, I gotta have the one that's certified and it's right and proper for that. But the rest of it I will be making. And I wanted to show you this because it's one example how I do things. Where one of the reasons I do things like this is because that some of the time I don't really know what I'm doing. Well, sort of. And I'm not always sure how I want it to look or what I want. So I mock it up different ways. Now this has to be, of course, structurally sound. It has to be correct so that the trailer will tow in the expected way. But it also has to be aesthetically what I want. So what I've been playing around with is how long do I want this to be? How will it sit in comparison to the rest of the bed? And I think this is about right. What it means is that from this point here where I hook it up, I will have about 2/3 of the trailer bed from the wheels or the axle up to this point. And I will have about 1/3 behind the axle or the wheel, which to me I think is pretty good. It's what I like. And I'll show you another thing. So it's going to be looking pretty much like this. It's not sitting exactly where it should be. As you can see, I've started to shape the bars so that they will fit this fixture. In the end, it will probably have, I'm also going to do a piece that's going to be welded across here. And when that gets into place, there are bolt holes, 2 on each side. I'll probably make another one here. So probably in all 5 bolts so that it really stays where it should stay. And I will use this method. Of course I have to get the angles right. I have to get lengthwise where I want it to be. I'm going to finish this part of the tongue first. And when that is fixed and ready as it should be, I just have to get it in place, and then I'll know how long the bars will be. But I won't before that because I don't have any preset plan. And that's pretty much a way of describing how all of this trailer will be built. I have an idea, I have some measurements, but usually not until I actually see it will I know if I like it or not, if it looks right to me. And I also have to find a way, a method to build it that way. And that's not a problem. That's exactly how I like to do it. So that you can eventually have the joy of seeing something take place in the room, three-dimensional, and see whether you like it or not, whether what you had in your mind is something that is appealing to you even when you see it. And you can always change it if you don't like it. So I think that's it for now. I will be adding some more material as I keep on working with this. So stay with me.